definition, wouldn't Bleach count as an isekai?
Not technically, because it still takes
no, hold on,
in
hear
this
the man
world.
out real quick.
Okay. I'm listening.
Okay, so
Come on.
he basically has to go into another world where he can't escape until he's completed his main plot line, and he's basically going there just to rescue someone. He gets to return, but then he has to go to another world, basically similar to the previous one, also in the spirit of a dead, just to rescue someone. And one of the characters from the other worlds comes back and makes a whole altercation of the world he is currently a part of, and his job is to stop that from happening, going through. So that count as an isekai.
I think an isekai, and I don't know if you guys would agree with me on this. I think an isekai is the point of the story is in the beginning, it's established that a parallel, most of the time, a fantasy world comes to existence, and this particular individual is summoned there, or these group of individuals is summoned there, or someone from there comes here. And then it's predicated on mainly staying in that world. So to give you an example, I think, Noah, you'll agree with me on this. While in Gate, they can and do come back to our world, the majority of the story takes place in the fantasy world. I think in the anime, it's only like about 4 episodes total that are actually in this world. And the fact is, in that case, it would technically be considered a reverse isekai, because when they're back in our world, the characters from the fantasy world are with them, and they're in this world when they're doing it. So while I get kind of what you're going with for the multiple parallel worlds with Bleach, I don't necessarily think it's an isekai in the traditional aspect. I do agree that that's a good
definitely not traditional.
Yeah, I do agree that it's a good argument that he's hopping between parallel worlds and whatnot, but is it an isekai? I would say no.
I would say, going off of that, I would agree that an isekai should primarily be focused on the alternate or the alternative world, universe, whatever that the character finds themselves in, instead of real world hijinks, which takes up a significant portion of Bleach.
Only in the beginning, really, and I believe parts of like the third one, because there's the huge chunks with the whole Hollow section and the whole Soul Society. And then I believe in the, I didn't actually see it, but I heard something about the whole big war at the end of the series where they spend, so that's like a major part, like 60 to 70% of the series where they spend their time in another world.
Right, but
the main focus is that.
Because
most
Bleach is wait, real quick. With the way of Bleach, I would say it's technically an isekai. You can make a solid argument that it's an isekai. It may not fit with most people's definition, but you have the Soul Society arc where the whole point of the arc is they're in another world saving their friend. And it's also one of those, Ichigo did not go willingly get this thing so he can go to the worlds. It was forced upon him to have this power to go between the worlds. Then you have the Hollow World arc, where it's one of those, this time it's his choice to go there, but he's still traveling to another world, and almost the entire thing is spent in that other world.
I would say those are 2 isekai arcs within the greater Bleach franchise. Because Bleach itself is not an isekai. There can be portions of it that have isekai elements, but I would not consider Bleach on the whole as its own IP, intellectual property, to be an isekai.
Because along that same argument that you make, Sam, technically the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya could be considered an isekai. Because how many times do they go to different alternate timelines or different dimensions and whatnot?
I would classify that. Well, it's not, but that's not the main plot of the story. The main plot of the story revolves around power, not that other worlds exist.
That's the whole plot of the one
Nice.
story of the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya. He's in an alternate timeline, and by your guys' logic,
Yes,
with
that movie would
Bleach
be an
and whatnot,
isekai.
technically it
Congrats
could be
for
considered an
him.
isekai.
Yes, for
But
him, that would be an
as I
isekai.
agree with
About to
Tea Leaf,
say,
as I agree with Tea Leaf on this, the entirety of the series is not predicated on the fact that the main character is in an alternate world, and that's where the majority of the story takes place. I agree with Tea Leaf that as an intellectual property, Bleach is not technically considered an isekai. While it has isekai elements in it, it is not part of the genre proper.
Fine.
The
Well, drop
the
your
other
argument for
issue-
now.
The other
It was a
issue
compelling
is
argument,
our-
Edwin. I do agree that it could be made as a compelling argument. I don't think you're going to change my mind, but you could change minds of other people.
I haven't seen
The-
all of
the problem
Bleach,
of
so
the
I
other-
can't give you the full argument with the whole last arc. I
Oh, dude, you should
wouldn't be able to do that.
You should definitely read the last arc of Bleach. It's actually pretty good.
It was so bad after Aizen got his
other-
butt kicked.
No,
The
dude,
other
dude,
big
just-
issue.
it's because the anime had too much filler, man.
I mean, it definitely did, but I just felt like after. We're getting off track though, but
Yeah,
I just
off
felt
track.
like after
Tea
Aizen
Leaf,
died,
go ahead.
there was no
You want to
story.
say something?
The other big issue with Bleach is the fact that most isekai focus on a singular alternate world, rather than in Bleach's case we have the whatever Soul Society and the Hollow Arc, which are two distinctly separate alternate worlds. So isekai, I think, mostly has to be predicated on the story being taking place in this alternate world, and there also can't be multiple of them. Otherwise, it's just a story about a guy that just randomly dimension hops. It becomes more Doctor Who in that sense, rather than an isekai focusing on one particular world.
Yeah, because I think in isekai, the big thing about that is, and I think everyone will agree with me on this, when it comes to isekai, it's about the story of the alternate world building is primarily what the focus of that story is, and the fact that the main character just happens to inhabit that alternate world.
Right, with whatever restrictions or abilities or what have you.
That would still be Bleach though, because there wasn't really any kind of development in the main world for the most part.